Cars on track here as we get set for round number 3 of the North American Sim Racing Series from Mount Panorama. I know the game sound isn't here for you guys yet, and I'll get to work on that for you. Jackson Lambros back with you, by the way. Great to be back in the comms box, joined alongside newcomer to the box, longtime steward for the series, Ryan Bellion. Ryan, how are you? I'm also now realizing that chat can also very much not hear you. So I'm going to get to work on this. You guys are going to watch Joris here 2 laps. Hey, man, it's not a NASRS stream if we don't have a little bit of scuff. So you guys can make race car sounds with your mouth while I figure this out. Of course I did this. Come on, Lambros. Let's try that again. Ryan, how are we?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. Rough start here, but we learned to roll with the punches here. So we go to a absolutely soaked Bathurst here. And in the way you and Greg Kachadurian have kind of put it is there's no such thing as a single car incident here, which I love, and that's what I'll do when I describe this to my beginner series, which I run at IFW. Well, it's just things can happen quickly, and a lot of cars can be involved quickly as Butkus board slides it through McPhillamy.
Yep. No, it seems like Bathurst has a way of generating incidents that take a long time to untangle. And yeah, even the best drivers can get caught out, especially around the top of the mountain. It's a very fast section of track, a lot of corners, and the curbs are more lethal than you'd expect.
Going to jump on board here with Gabe Dovier in this AMR V12 Vantage. First season for Gabe, and we will follow him up the mountain. Up Murray's here can use plenty of the runoff here for track limits. It can definitely upset the car, especially in these conditions. Up towards the cut, get as close to that Audi sign on the inside as possible. Then up through Curry Corner, run it to the outside where the stewards are. We're trying to make our line as straight as possible and carry as much speed as we get to the top of the hill. Big unload of the car here through the crest, excuse me. As we head into McPhillamy Park, it can use a little bit of this curbing on the outside, but it can upset the car. Keeps it straight down through the S's here, coasting and just riding the brakes here through the Dipper and the S's. Back on the throttle the minute that car settles. Again, just game of inches, getting as close as he can to the car. Slides it into Forest Elbow.
That zone is so hard to break in, even on a dry track, so sending it through that is inadvisable.
And getting a run here is absolutely paramount. You can get it done into turn number 3, that right-handed 90-degree corner, but chase a great opportunity as well. This big chicane left-right coming up, using that concrete to the left to broaden your line as we flick it to the inside. Curbing comes fast, and Gabe responds quickly on the pedals there. And it is
looking like a tidy lap.
And it is a pair of 90-degree left-handers that start and end our lap here at Mount Panorama. 2:08.332 from Gabe. That's good enough for 6th. Normally we would run a split car qualifying where we would have golds go out in the second half, the second 10 minutes, and let the silvers open. That usually would require us having north of 30 cars, but definitely good inflation in the field compared to the past 2 seasons here, as 25 cars on the docket here for round number 3.
And in regards to the split qualifying, honestly, it's more dependent on the track than the number of cars. There are some tracks where it's just impossible to find space, and so we try to split things up just to make it a little bit easier. We didn't broadcast round one, but that's what we ended up having to do at Zandvoort. Since it is such a tight track that is hard to get out of the way on, we figured it would be better to split things up a bit just to give people more space. But here at Bathurst, it's a long track. It's got plenty of space to get out of the way, except at the top of the mountain. And especially here in the rain, cars are not going to be coming up on each other as fast as they normally would.
Joel Klaus still finding a way to run into some lap traffic, though, as he has to navigate around Casey Jackman to begin his flyer. Still up on Delta. I think the other thing we've got to mention here, Ryan, and we always mention this to the rookies during wet racing, but the struggles of running right on someone's bumper in the rain. Because yes, you're in GT3 machinery and you have windshield wipers to your advantage, but there's a heck of a rooster tail that these cars can produce, and that definitely affects your visibility.
Absolutely, especially at the race start.
So something we always talk about in these kinds of conditions, something that Greg brought up during the driver's briefing as well. And again, no such thing as a single car incident, especially at the top of the hill in this concrete canyon. The closest thing we have in ACC and the North American Sim Racing Series to a street circuit. I mean that both in the philosophy of how the track is designed and how it is built, because for the greater half of a year, this is actually public roads here in Mount Panorama.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The concrete barriers at the top can be a bit more forgiving than you'd expect. A lot of the time, the car will just ricochet off of it instead of actually, crunching against it and spinning. But that is only in a few select locations. Some sections, especially around the Dipper, if you hit one of those concrete barriers, you're either going to get yourself spun and stuck, or your car is done for the day.
I believe it was our friend Mark Foster and the rookies to have driven that, albeit in a 4Runner. Big lap right here from Adriel Lugo Ortiz, nearly up 8/10 from his previous best. That gives him the closest proximity to pole. Still a third of a second out from Joel Klaus. Jorinus Butkus is in third. Grayson Head in fourth. Raf Cabrera, inseparable from his CNC Lexus. Not a good lap for him, but still provisionally fifth. Nitin Murthy, also a guy we see in a Lexus, has finally been separated from his baby, the AMG, in a new car this season.
And specifically for this track, I think we're going to see a lot of the front engine cars sort of come alive, especially on the downhill section. They tend just to have better turn-in and more stability overall. On the flip side, though, the Porsches do tend to get a little bit oversteery, a little bit unstable, even in dry conditions. So I'm thinking Mr. Butkus is going to have some issues with stability. We're going to see a lot of skill as he navigates around the track.
Definitely the one lap pace from them right now. Engines behind the car right now, currently first, second, and fourth. Michael Landry now finally joining the conversation, good enough for third right now behind Lugo Ortiz. But as you mentioned here, Rye, I think, having the engine behind you is good in the single run. You got all that weight on the drive wheels. But in the long run, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these guys will maintain that. The Ferrari, obviously, I haven't heard enough from a lot of the coaches about how easy that is to drive, especially in these conditions. Klaus is a guy that absolutely can get pace out of that Lamborghini, but just how knife edge that car can be on the limit, it's going to be interesting to see if Joel will be able to hold that pace regardless of where he's rolling off here.
That's correct. And in regards to the 296, it is a very unique car. The engine is located a lot further back than some of the mid-engine cars. Also, the way that it gets on the brakes relies a lot on engine braking, which does run the risk of locking the rears. Having driven the car around here a few times, especially going down the mountain, you have to be very careful of rear locking.
No improvement here for Joris Butkus. Will still be on the outside of row number 4. Raf Cabrera drops down to 6th now with Grayson Head. Here comes Grayson into McPhillamy. Best Mercedes of the field right now. Another long time Mercedes pilot here, inches from the outside wall going into McPhillamy. All the way to the inside of the Partech wall. And a big lift, and we'll just ride the brakes. Actually, a little bit of throttle here down the hill. And that is showing me confidence in this car and its limits. A little bit of lap traffic ahead. I believe that's Dak Patella. No, it's not. Zach Baclair acting as a roadblock. What was hurting him earlier is actually going to now help head, as I believe he might be getting a little bit of a draft here from Zach. As Grayson doesn't like it one bit, and of course the minute I say that, backs out of it, so the commentator's curse is alive and well.
Yeah, Zach was sort of in a no-win position there. Going down the mountain, you want to try to maintain your line. There's really no way you can get out of the way of another car without slamming on the brakes. And I think by the time he noticed he was in the rear view, there really wasn't anywhere to go.
This could be a dumb one. Does it feel like dirty air is a bigger factor than some people might realize in GTs? Is it amplified at all in the rain, or is it just the same level of annoying?
Well, it's not necessarily the dirty air. It is, like we were talking about before, the spray. The closer you follow a car, you are going to notice the steering gets a little light. You may not have as much grip, either front or rear, as you're used to. But specifically in the rain, that lack of visibility combined with the longer braking distances, that's going to unsettle the car, especially during braking and especially without the rear wing as effective as it normally is.
Ooh, big slide from Grayson Head there. Doing that board slide once again. That's the exit of turn number 3. Wrestling that Mercedes up the hill through Corey's corner. Back to Gabe Dovier, who I think is in one of the... I did not install the livery pack prior to this race because my computer continues to do weird things. Got kind of a Fanacolor scheme going on here, as he will quit that lap as well. Brothers Kwan, by the way, just a little bit up the field. We're sitting next to each other on the timing with who we're watching right now, Michael in the Ferrari as the faster of the two. He's currently in 9th. There's another Ferrari now separating him and Matt, as Brian Slater now slides into 10th. Order still very much the same in the front end of the field, although Michael Landry getting to put together just a little bit better of a lap to leapfrog ELO. So Klaus still on pole, but a 10th.5 back on pace right now. Michael Landry, Buckus back out on track. He works his way down through Conrad. Still not enough pace right now in that Porsche to get himself any further ahead with 5 minutes to go here in qualifying.
A little bit of a misstep there from Zach in the final corner. Might have held up Mr. Grayson a little bit there. Speaking of held up, there goes Slater as well.
Ooh, trouble, yeah, for Brian Slater, as we'll try and get a replay of what happened here. Davin Sturdivant tucking in right in front of Zach. It might have been the elder, the more I'm thinking about this. As father and son, Zach and Jesse. Original game plan was to run the Porsche last season. They both made the move over now to the 720.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I had the nameplates up above the car. I could only see the last name. That's kind of the relative now. Yeah, car 409 is Jesse. They've had a little bit of impeding there. We do try to look at these things as they happen. Usually just we follow the blue dots along and see if they're close to any of the gray dots. In this case, there may have been a bit of impeding. As a steward, I take a look. We generally try to be lenient about it, but you're going to ruin someone's best lap, we got to penalize you.
Riding shotgun in the M4 of Michael Landry. He was dancing in the delta that could get him to the front of this field right now. He just lost big time coming out of Forest Elbow. And that might be lap over, as he's now nearly 2/10 up from his last best lap. Joris Butkus looking for time as well in that number 20. He's right behind, but at his pace right now will not move forward. Landry losing even more time here into the chase, so this lap will be no good. And the way the timing is working out right now, one, these guys are going to have at most 2 more laps. And 2, I am incredibly impressed with the pace these guys are putting out. This is actually the 3rd race in the past, I think it's been within a week, that I've called a wet race at Mount Panorama. And seeing guys break under 2:08 was impressive. And I mean, we know the kind of drivers that Klaus, Landry, ELO, and Butkus are. But for the greater half of this field to be comfortably running in the 2:07s, that's pretty dang.
Oh, for sure. I've seen a lot of people coming into the practice server, putting in good laps, practicing for the conditions, and I think we're seeing a lot of that pay off today.
2:06, 8:10, Landry in the wall. Will continue his lap, but I think that will be invalidated in what was starting out as a flyer and would be on target for a pole position has now gone away. A little bit of an improvement there from Joris. It's a 2:06, 8:10. As we mentioned, though, not enough to catch Lugo, Ortiz, or others, so we'll stay in P4. Grayson Head is in 5th. And Landry is still out there trying to salvage something out of this. He's a second off target. Raf Cabrera out as well, trying to work forward. And Murphy with a potential here to have some big moves if he can get this done. Over a 3rd up from his best as he works his way out of chase. Loses a little bit of time here heading into Murray's. Got on the throttle just a smidge too soon. Out of the final corner. Could still be some movement with an opportunity to leapfrog Dak Botello. And he does it. P7 for the Indian, Nitin Murthy. And we'll have an opportunity to run it back one more time. Dak's thrown in the towel as well. Joel Klaus is out here running too, which I don't know what the point is there when you still got a pretty healthy cushion from 1st to 2nd, but clearly thinks he's got a little bit more in it.
You can never really discount Michael Landry coming in at the last moment and stealing pole. Even though he was in the wall, he may be able to improve on this next lap.
Ooh, Parker Thomas doing some yard work here in the chase. We'll have to settle for P17. I did actually, someone in chat mentioned to get us a view of Parker. And there might be some bias from that chatter, but we should go without saying that if you're in the NASRS community, I've had the pleasure of racing alongside Parker, one of the fastest guys in rookies, a longtime rookie racer, and he makes that replacement from his old rookie car and jumps right into the new Ferrari. So solid mid-pack running right now for Parker in his first Tuesday series. So a couple guys trying to improve here. Nitin Murthy nearly identical with his last lap. He doesn't need much here to jump cab. Lexus on Lexus crime in the making here. Now he's down going into Murray's. Finds some major time, but sails off into the wall. Oh, and that could be bad because he's got the 22 coming through. Rob Ruggiero for Team Leviathan comes to the line. Best for 14th. And that will do it for round 3 qualifying. When we come back, it's 65 minutes straight of Bathurst action right here on the NASRS YouTube channel. Stay with us. Nothing actually written here for me to promote as we get back, but always welcome to join the NASRS fun here on our Discord server. Still open spots to join in mid-season here within the Tuesday night split. And as always, rookies running Thursday nights. You can find more in the YouTube channel description for more. And as always, for the active NASRS members, full set of merch on the Etsy shop as well. Here's how they will line up for round number 3. Jesse Beclaire in 25th, Sam Parchment alongside him in 24th, Keith Bull is 23rd, Casey Jackman 22nd, Don Debian in 21st, showrunner Davin Sturdivant off to a subpar start from him will be P20, Hans Montes from the rookies in 19th, Dean Lusch in 18th, Parker Thomas 17th, Owen Churchill 16th, Zach Beclaire 15th, Rogerio is 14th. Chris Wacker is 13th. Gabe Dovier is 12th. Couple of brothers here. Matt Quant is in 11th. Brian Slater 10th. Mike is in 9th. Mike Quant. Dak Patello is in 8th. Nitin Murthy is in 7th. Raf Cabrera in 6th. Grayson Head is 5th. Joel Butkus, or Durinas, is in 4th. And Edriel Lugo Ortiz is in 3rd. This rivalry continues on the front row as Michael Landry was looking for pace in that Kazar Sim Racing M4, could not find it, and will give that pole position to the MTR machine of Joel Klaus. 65 minutes of racing awaits us here at the mountain, and one mandated pit stop. Both tires and fuel are allowed. And Ryan, I know you can make 65 minutes work on a single set of wets, but with how long of a race this is and how demanding this track can be on tires, I don't think that's even up to question.
Not at all. You're going to want the ability to get water away from the tire to shed any excess. That way there's no hydroplaning, and as the tires wear down, it's going to lose its ability to do that effectively. I would expect to see some pit stops right around the middle of the race, maybe even a little bit earlier, as the higher fuel load you'll be carrying will wear those tires down even quicker.
Something we haven't even really talked about when I've been with Elliott is the effect of the fuel load on tire wear. I think also it goes without saying the undercut is always advantageous, especially at a place like the mountain, just with how difficult it can be to navigate around, you know, a slower car. And realistically, it's the run up and down the hill that are your main options for overtaking. So potentially undercut, a big strategy here. And we could see some guys, you know, struggle to get around, try the undercut, see clean air for the first time and put their head down. But what are we like in strat-wise here, Ryan?
Well, it really depends on what your pace is and how well you can keep the tires alive. So it's not just being able to pass on the straights, it's the exit from the corner right before. So specifically turn 1 hell corner, as well as Forest Elbow are going to be major traction zones. So I'd expect to see those with fresher tires and maybe a little bit less fuel have an advantage there. So the undercut could be powerful, but so could a very late pit stop if you can struggle your way through the first part of the race.
And by the way, those traction zones are where the mid-engine cars are going to have an advantage, at least early on in the run, as we mentioned, with all of that extra weight on the drive wheels. Green flag ready to be waved here. Joel Klaus on the inside in the Muffin Team Rocket Huracan. Michael Landry, season 24 winner as well on the outside in the M4. Stand by. How much chaos are we going to see into Hell Corner? Are we going to potentially see a new winner here this season? Let's find out. Let's go racing at Mount Panorama. Good start from Klaus, who already had the track position and an advantage. He will lead Landry into Hell Corner a little bit further back, and the defending rows are doing well right now. A little bit of a run from Butkus, as he will now have the inside on the Ferrari of ELO. Will have the inside going into the bend. Landry still in second, side by side. No longer, as now third will go to Butkus going into Griffin's Bend. Everybody single file, no yellow flag as we head up towards the cutting for the first time.
That was good racing. That was clean racing. We had some side-by-side, but everyone was very respectful going into turn 2.
So Klaus over Landry at the front of the field. And not entirely sure if we've seen any potential movers here. A couple of guys gaining one position. Dak Patello. Ooh, trouble further back. Gabe Dovier going a little bit wide here, going through the parks out of Frog Hollow, excuse me. So now under fire from Rob Regario and Chris Wacker as the Quants continue to take off ahead in the one yellow flag incident we have had thus far. Sam Parchment on the move as well, gaining 2 positions. Big loss there from Don Debian, now in last.
I didn't quite catch what happened to him, but it looks like everyone was able to get around him. Checking the stewarding sheet, I don't see any major contact as of yet.
There was some we saw a little bit earlier. Looked like Mike Quant got a little bit ambitious through the door to Brian Slater. He got a little bit loose, but that's what gave Dovier that opportunity to move forward in that Aston Martin, then got a little bit overambitious, and then sent a little bit further back. The only contact car to car we've actually gotten so far at this point in the race, if you can so believe, Chris.
And that's always good to see. We like to see clean racing here. We like to see careful racing, especially up the mountain. That makes my life as a steward a lot easier. But also, we like to see these races go on. We like to see the battles go on.
And we look back at the history of how some people have ran here, as now Keith Bull throws it to the inside of Stephen Parchment. 2 former rookies going at it in the Tuesday Big side by side out of Hell's Corner. Further behind, Jesse Beclaire going to use all that draft that Ferrari is offering and try to get the toe behind Keith Bull. Stephen Parchment trying to get back into line, but Keith still on the outside going into Griffin's Bend. Game of inches here, and the long way around for Keith Bull.
There are ways to make a pass around the outside work, but it is very difficult, especially in the wet. There is so little grip off of the relatively drier racing line that you have to be either much better on the brakes than your opponent, which the 296 does have good brakes, or you just need to take a better line and squeeze them to the inside.
More troubles further back here for Gabe Dovier. Let's see if we can get a replay of what happened. Working out of Reed Park here and into Solman. Goes a little bit wide here. Ryan, we've talked about this in coaching sessions, but that curbing on the outside of McPhillamy can go so south so quickly if you take inches off of what the ideal line is.
Absolutely, especially in the wet. You're not going to have as much grip on that painted surface as you would on the tarmac. So not only does the curb unsettle the car, but you're more than likely going to slide across it and then, as you were saying earlier, forward slide.
So Rob Regario given 2 opportunities to overtake Dovier, but has not been able to do so. I'm going to put that down to good patience from the BMW pilot behind, as that is a very, very difficult place to do it. I would say maybe Skyline is your only place you could potentially get it done. Big wiggle from ELO coming out of turn number 1, by the way. But you've got a handful of opportunities maybe to get it done. It's going to take high commitment and high confidence in both you and your team and your opponent to get that move done. But again, I think patience is just such a virtue at this track.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of cooperation that goes on as well, because you don't need to just race the driver up the mountain and down the mountain. You have to trust them not to get into an accident and ruin both of your days.
On board with Dakota Botello as Raf Cabrera went a little bit wide out of Griffin's Bend. That opened the door for Dakota, but good defense here from Raf has added that gap between. He's wide once again, inches from the wall, going through Solman, and somehow keeps that Lexus in one piece. Looks like there might have been trouble as well for Michael Kwan. as we look for a replay. He too might have been caught. Nitin Murthy with a big wiggle on the curbing going through McPhillamy. That's how he lost P10 to Mike Quant. But good recovery from Nitin Murthy to not just recover from that mistake, but instantly get back in the fight. He once again separates brothers Quant.
I am so surprised he hung on to that. That is some serious skill behind the wheel.
Now the swing back into the chase. Big commitment. Will look to the inside. Was very overzealous, and it will be lawn work from Nitin Murthy, who had a good run going into the chase, but got on the anchors just a little bit too late. Ended up in the grass, and as a result, Matt will go by with him. So 9th to 11th and just a handful of corners for Nitin Murthy.
It was a big risk going to the outside of that corner, but he just could not hold on to it. The Lexus is a very heavy car. It has trouble decelerating, but it is very fast in the straights, and he just didn't quite have enough to stop in time.
Edriel Lugo-Ortiz been struggling a little bit on pace right now, trying to get the traction control dialed in on that 296. Grayson Head right on the bumper for the time being. Just a little bit further back, Cabrera continues to hold off Dakota Botello. Brian Slater joining that 3-car queue as well. So everyone's still very, very bunched up in the opening 10 minutes. Joel Klaus putting his foot down and enjoying this open air. 2 seconds separating him from Michael Landry. Ooh, more trouble. First contact of the day. Owen Churchill and Zach Baclair. As we will try and take a replay here to see what happened. This is going into the cutting.
That is at a very dangerous spot there at the top of the mountain. You can see the train forming behind him now.
So I think it was Zach maybe looking for a way around. If not, Owen maybe getting into the wall. It is. Owen gets wide and collects Zach. Ironically enough, it was the contact between him and Zach that actually straightened out the M4. But you've got to imagine that both of those cars now with significant damage.
Yeah, the touch against the wall, the initial contact, is not usually what damages it. It's when that other car slams into it. You can see it hit the left front of that BMW, which may cause some steering damage. At the very least, it's going to knock that bumper off a little bit and cause him to be slower in the straights.
And while watching that replay, we missed a big mistake here from Michael Landry. That's lost him a half a second from the leader, Klaus. More importantly, it's brought Jarinas right back into this battle for P2. Had good momentum going into Griffin's Bend, but ended up backing up. And now Landry goes a little bit wide once again on exit. So this battle for second definitely on, but it will have to take a breather for now as they work their way into the cutting.
And that is a factor that can't be ignored on this track. The mountain section is all about rhythm and consistency, so even making a small mistake, one slide, one wheel out of place, can lead to a cascading series of mistakes that ultimately you're going to lose lap time.
On the wing of Dakota Botello, that's Brian Slater behind, who has spent the first 10 minutes just defending both of the Quant brothers. But with such fire under his seat, he's actually now closed the gap to Dakota. So this now becoming a 4-car freight train. By the way, Zach Baclair now in the pit box, getting that McLaren to work. He has since exited and rejoined. Obviously not an optimal way, not the way he wanted his strategy to work, but definitely not an impossible strat if he wants to bring it home all the way.
Absolutely not. And as long as he's easy on the tires, he's not scrubbing them, he's not sliding, that tire can last to the end of the race, but he's not going to be able to extract the full pace out of the car, especially not towards the end. So we'll see if he can recover. He can probably pull out a few seconds, maybe even a few positions out of it, but it is going to be challenging. He's going to have to play it very smart.
Clean air going to be a really big advantage. However, you consider the additional pace of Joel Klaus in the field, about 3 seconds a lap in difference. So it won't be too long until the 331 of Beclair has a rear bumper full of Klaus, and that's going to be a really big wrench in how Klaus wants to run his race, and could be a really big shakeup here for, you know, the entirety of the field, as they're going to have to now deal with lap traffic a lot sooner than they expected.
Correct. And we as stewards wanted to really emphasize for this race that blue flag traffic, it's not like in Formula One. They are entitled to space, they are entitled to keep racing. It is on the faster car to make that pass, but on this track, there's almost nowhere to pass or to let someone by.
Only 2 incidents on race control right now, so some very, very clean racing from all 25 of our NASRS pilots in the opening section of this race. We're now finally starting to see some parts of the field dilute. Not accordioning apart entirely, but definitely breaking out into certain freight trains, shall we say. Klaus with a very comfortable 4-second lead now over Landry, but you look just a little bit further back here, Dakota Botello holding this entire half of the field out. Matter of fact, it's giving these Super Ferraris go at it. Slater in the field a little bit. Quant with some good momentum will get that move done before the chase, and will take P8.
Just a little bit of a mental mistake. He must have been looking in his mirrors trying to defend, and he just put 2 tires off the road. That affects your momentum so much going into the chase. I think he just gave up the position afterwards.
Another Beclair bites the dust. It's father Jesse who had to kind of Austin-powered it in the S's, has gotten that McLaren refired and on its way once again. But a bad day gone worse for the duo. Good pace right now from Nitin Murthy, who is mounting revenge on the other family affair, the 2 Quants. In the draft of the M4, now looks to the inside, heading into turn number 3 out of Griffin's Bend, but some good defense there from Matt as he holds the outside and will make him fight for it going into the cutting. Robert Grerio trying the exact same thing, but couldn't get it done as well. But now Duvier goes wide. They'll go side by side going through Corey Corner, and Robert Grerio, the move nearly 15 minutes in the making, finally gets that M4 past that kind of Fanta-colored Aston Martin.
You don't normally see overtakes there. It was very opportunistic, but well held by both drivers.
And initiated by a mistake, and that's kind of, I think, the strat Rob was looking for. Not necessarily, you know, selling dummies to the inside and really trying to make a move on pace, but what a lot of the rookies have had to adapt to in Tuesday night or any level of top flight sim racing is just being able to coexist with the guy in your rearview mirror for long periods of time, not cracking under pressure. And God knows I've been able to do that, and Elliott has not, and that's what earned him that Tuesday spot. Murphy with a good run, round number 2 in the run down to Chase. He'll have the inside line, but we know that's bumpy, and the right-hander, that pushrod suspension of the Lexus RCF says no problem. P10 for Nitin Murphy.
He made that move stick, he learned from his mistakes, he made some adjustments, and it paid off.
And with such a level of confidence that I don't want to call it moving in the braking zone, because he wasn't even on the anchors again before he was able to get back in line in front of Matthew Quant. So some great pace there and great patience for the experimental racing driver. Battle between Slater and the other Quant continuing here as Slater looked to have some momentum, looked to the inside of Mike. But I think might have done something to upset that 296. He's now nearly 3-4 car lengths between that other Ferrari and Dakota Botello.
He's also getting good drive out of the cutting, which is so important, especially going up the mountain. The goal is to get as close as you can without actually trying to overtake and set up a pass at Forest Elbow, which it looks like he's doing now. He's keeping right in the tire tracks of Mr. Botello, but not staying too close, keeping a good gap.
Here's a freight train we have not shown you guys yet tonight. It's showrunner Davin Sturdivant holding off a couple of graduated rookies, Dean Lusch and Hans Montes. And in the heart of it, Casey Jackman still getting used to that AMR Vantage as we've got trouble for Keith Bull. Once again, we'll try and find when that happened. I believe it was actually one of the Aston Martins in front. That might have been Duvier. I'm not entirely sure, actually. Self-inflicted. Did not gather anybody else in that as a result. Grayson headed with an interesting decision there into the middle of the track. Not sure if that's maybe to find a puddle and cool those tires. Contact between Dakota Botello and Michael Kwan, excuse me. As that was an interesting one. We'll try and find the replay of what happened. This is going into Murray's right before the stripe. These two have been close for the past couple of laps. As just looked like Mike got a little bit too late on the binders there. But good sportsmanship there, lifted off the gas and let Dakota hold that position. So fight is still on here for 8th. Brian Slater gets another chance to reel these two in.
From a stewarding perspective, we look at the initial incident, but we also look at the outcome, not necessarily to determine what penalty you should receive, but also to determine if a penalty is needed. In this case, I'm not sure if that's going to result in a penalty or not. I would need to look at the replay, but it looks like both drivers retained their position and didn't overall lose too much time. We'll see what my colleagues think.
You can see on the map right now just how much of a freight train is starting to develop here with Dakota Botello and Matthew Quant kind of acting as the two engines. It's two kind of 4-car pods here, and further back it is still the Davin Sturdivant show as everybody follows that what's supposed to be the silver Blitz McLaren down the hill. We know those Lexi have good pace. What does Hans Montes has? Looks to the inside. Could be a carbon copy move of what Nitin Murthy did to the inside, and nearly exactly the same. Oh, contact between the two. Big moment there between Hans Montes and Davin Sturdivant, as it looks like Hans just ran it a little bit too deep there, I think, Ryan, and as a result tried going back to that outside line and collected Davin as a product.
You hate to see contact like that. It looked like it was going to be a nice, clean overtake, but it just, the space was misjudged by car 8 there.
So no takers to pit row here, but it looks like the drama might have continued afterwards for Hans, who will now take that RCF on to pit row. What was looking like such a good battle between all of these guys. The first battle to really end in heartbreak tonight. So that will promote Quant to the leader of this sort of freight train as he continues to hold off Rob Rogerio. A little bit of a wiggle there through McPhillamy. And if Matt is able to keep this pace up, he might be able to reach this freight train just up the road with Botello, his brother Mike, Brian Slater, Nitin Murphy. So we shall see as the remainder here of what was in that Hans and Davin pack have stretched out big time. Still two rookies going at it though, Parker Thomas and Owen Churchill.
That Ferrari is just so strong coming out of the elbow. It's like everything you do to catch up to the back of it all just disappears in an instant. It has got to be so frustrating for Churchill.
And I think the additional frustration is what that Ferrari offers to drivers electronically on the brakes. One of the few cars to offer a auto-migrate brake system that essentially changes the bias on the fly during braking. And you talk about how much of an advantage that offers its drivers. That's to a major degree in these kinds of conditions.
Absolutely, not just because of the rain, but also because of the elevation and the angle at which you brake into that corner. Being able to shift your brake balance to the front or the rear at a moment's notice is going to help you so much with preventing lockups, especially in the steep downhill of Forest Elbow.
Part of what makes this track so unique is the different kind of braking zones you have. You have obviously the downhill. Oh, big trouble here. Matt Quant and a major roadblock. Both of these cars broadside. Gabe Dovier collected as a result as well. And this is a scary place for both of these guys.
Gotta stay still.
Oh my goodness. I think both of them are trying to think about when to back up. Now they'll try it, but Dean Lusch and Keith Bull are coming as well. And now both of them will try to straighten themselves out. Thankfully did not collect anybody else. We'll try and find the incident here. It started with Rob having a run out of Hell's Corner. They nearly made contact down the front straightaway, down Mountain Straight. A little bit of contact once again. So it actually started with Matt getting into Rob, and Gabe Dovier collected as a result. And this is the scary part. Oh my goodness, Gabe nearly getting into, I believe that was Keith Bull, or no, it was Owen Churchill, as Dean Lusch went by afterwards. So obviously you're very, very eager to get back in the action there, but some good patience from both drivers involved in making just those two the incident. Your thoughts on who's going to get the punishment there, Ryan?
I don't want to comment too much on it. I don't want to try to influence the other steward's decision, but looking at that, I have to say it's close. Both cars were fighting hard, and without checking the replay, going over with a fine-tooth comb, I would not be able to tell you which car was obviously at fault there.
So just over a third into round number 3 here at Mount Panorama. Some big shuffles due to some incidents. Joel Klaus now with a nearly 7-second lead over Michael Landry. Jurius Butkus is in 3rd. Edriel Lugo-Ortiz holds on to 4th. Grayson Head is in 5th. Raf Cabrera 6th. It's Mike Quant in 7th. Dakota Botello, who we ride with now, is in 8th. He holds off Brian Slater and Nitin Murphy for the top 10. And with 7 minutes to the halfway point, we are absolutely working our way into our pit window. 15-second added time penalty to Hans Montez. It's the first added time penalty we've given out tonight.
That's correct. It seems like the reason was blocking, which makes sense. On a straight, if you have any amount of overlap with the car next to you, they are entitled to space. You cannot run them off the road. You can't squeeze them until their tires are on the grass. They are entitled to the space they are occupying, and so if you take that space away or try to get a little bit cheeky, get in front of them, even if they have a run, that is going to net you a blocking penalty, especially given the contact and the effect it had on both drivers' races.
Certainly not intentional from Hans's end, but I think it was just a misunderstanding of space, not realizing Davin was that much on his bumper when he was trying to move to that outside line. But still great work as always from our stewards. And again, that's not something he will have to serve since he's already come into the box. So that will be added time trouble for Dakota Botello. Gets that McLaren running once again, but might be the second quad involved. One of the Lexus running off into Hell's Corner. I believe that is Nitin Murthy with a mistake further back. What's happened with Dakota Botello? He slides it. Self-induced incident. Relatively safe rejoin there from Dakota as it was inside and offline. But a potential top 10 run there from Dakota will have to stick a pin in it. More trouble. Grayson Head. Ooh, and a scary part as well.
Oh, that is a hard place to get out of. His best bet may be just to reverse and wait for traffic to clear.
He might have to wait until the 409 or the 21 to go by. He's got a lot of trouble here as Nitin Murthy continues to have issues as well. Carnage finally comes here with 25 minutes in.
This is the part of the race where the tires are starting to wear down. You're not able to clear as much water as you would with a fresh set of wets, and that can catch a lot of people out, especially in braking. We can expect to see more lockups, more understeer, or even contact with the wall as the race goes on. I wouldn't be surprised if both of those drivers end up pitting for new tires ASAP.
Nothing flashing up from race control, so that's telling me that's another induced incident there for Grayson Head. So a top 10 and a top 5 run out the window in just a matter of corners between two different drivers. We'll try and get a replay here and show you guys what happened.
Looks like there may have been some minor contact between Joris and Michael up in second and third.
See if we can find that as well. That was entirely self-induced. Hit the inside wall, working through the S's and pivoted that AMG right around. As there was an incident, it looked like, going into, actually out of Murray's. This conversation started from the chase. It was actually a swing from Buttkiss to the outside through Hell's Corner. Was a little bit of a nudge there.
Looks like we have some drivers pitting now. Davin amongst them. Grayson's pitting as well. Let's see, car 14, Mr. Cabrera is as well. All trying to make their stops right here at the halfway point.
And a lot of guys just responding to damage that's already there. Buckus with a little bit of a peek to the outside going into the chase. Tries jamming it on brakes. They make contact once again and somehow both keep it on the tarmac. Going to be interesting to see if one of them or both of them come into the pit lane at this time. Buckus pulls the ripcord and will try the undercut. Landry going to go long.
That's a smart move from Butkus. If you're stuck behind a car that is losing pace, you're also going to lose pace with them, so it may be smarter just to get the pit stop out of the way, come out in clear air, and wait for them to either make a mistake or come out behind you.
Gabe Dovier back out as well. behind Davin Sturdivant. Hard to call it at this point, but your biggest mover so far, Keith Bull, running in 14th, started this race P23. Good stuff from the graduated rookie. I'm still looking for the right term here. Former rookie, because he's a rookie in Tuesday Night Split, but he also ran in the rookie series a lot, so the Tuesday night rookie, we'll figure it out.
Graduate may be a good term.
Graduate,
you know?
well, we can do graduate.
Regardless, if Keith can keep his tires alive and go a little bit longer, that second stint with less fuel in it, with fresher tires, especially if he comes out in a good spot, is going to give him the ability to push and attack, especially towards the end of the race when other cars' tires are starting to wear down a bit and they have to be more cautious.
And lap traffic finally, for the first time tonight, has reached our leader, Joel Klaus, who I would say maybe take it to pit row, but you look at that absolute snake behind leading with the 9 car, that's Michael Kwan. You gotta ask what the right kind of strat is, and Klaus will take it to pit lane this time by. Ooh, a little bit of lawn work there. Working his way into pit lane. A really funky, one of the weirdest pit entries we have. Laguna Seca and Kailami obviously having some tight entrances as well, but not a full-blown chicane like here. Absolutely,
and it's so hard to spot the actual pit line where you need to slow down. It's just practice and knowing where it is. But given Klaus's pit time, if the driver's behind pit, he may actually come out in a really good spot, somewhere between 4 and 13.
Lap traffic here for Nitin Murthy working around the outside of Sam Parchment. Sam, I believe, running in 21st, yes, as he tries to close the gap to Brian Slater. So 2 takers this time by our leader, Joel Klaus and Michael Kwan. As I say that, Rob Rogerio and one of the other BMWs, it is Chris Wacker in the Valet Rossi machine. Dakota Botello, actually, I'm amazed, chose now and not immediately after his incident to come in. He is actually held on to top 10 running after his moment. So this is going to be interesting as Butkus now cashing in his moves. He might have overtaken Joel Klaus. No, there's Klaus. Might have been some progress, though.
It looks like it. Based on Michael's lap times, it looks like they're roughly the same, but they are starting to decay just a bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see him pitting either this lap or next lap.
So Landry and Lugo Ortiz are big podium contenders still to pit, as Lugo Ortiz with some good pace going down the chase will stay in line. Who are we going to see come in this time by, as we are officially halfway home at Mount Panorama? Landry will come in. Lugo Ortiz continues the long run. Interesting stuff from the top Ferrari.
He may just have fresher tires. He may be trying to go as long as he can just to get that low fuel run at the end. It's all about what sort of lap times you can keep up without putting yourself into the wall.
Keith Bull, self-induced spin at the dipper and perfectly 360 no-scopes it and keeps that Ferrari running. So Klaus still in a league of his own for the time being. Here's the interesting question as Butkus now works his way through the chase. He's got a little bit of lap traffic in front of him. Brian Slater, I believe, one of the other Ferraris, Keith Bull, who now comes into pits. Where is the merge going to be between him and the BMW of Landry?
Landry's
Landry
exiting the
now
pits
just
now.
on the
It's gonna
exit.
be
This is
close.
going to be close. I think it goes to Landry now as he finally starts to accelerate. You can just barely see the frog headlights behind of that Porsche. So
All comes down
undercut
to the
strategy worked for Landry there.
It sure did, and it looks like it was just a few seconds that separated them. Maybe not even that. It could have been lap traffic. It could have just been some trouble getting the tires into the right window to get the maximum performance out of the car, but it looks like there was just enough lost time that Landry could stay ahead.
Four seconds separating Butkus and Landry, who that's going to end up being our net second and third. And good strategy execution in a battle that was bumper to bumper before these guys came to pit row. Where does Adriel Lugo Ortiz slot in as a result? Our provisional leader finally coming in to serve his mandatory stop. Last one on the menu, at least for the front of the field, is Nick Murphy as he works into Murray's and says, give me one more. So both him and Owen Churchill still to pit. Rest of the field has done so.
I'm interested to see where Edgeril comes out in all this because his lap times look good, but he may be coming out behind some lap traffic. He may even be coming out behind Landry here.
So Butkus, who's still behind, is going to be a big indicator of where these guys could come out. He finally comes back across the stripe to finish lap number 17. As here comes Adriel. He could potentially split the two. He does! Position gain from Adriel Lugo Ortiz.
And that is just all good strategy. It was well executed by Edgeril, and it paid off for him.
It could be good for Owen Churchill as well, the graduate in that row racing BMW. I think he's elected to spend a little bit of extra time in the box, though, to work on some damage. That's also kind of an interesting strat we haven't really mentioned here, as that is something you almost always have to deal with, whether it's just a brush with a wall or just a little bit of a nudge from another car working through the mountain. But always an important question you've got to ask yourself at that pit stop. Do I take that extra 5, 10, 15 seconds to work on that damage? Oh, trouble for Joris Butkus. Big damage for that Porsche.
Oh, it looks like Edgeril's also in the wall.
Oh my goodness, he is. Did this start contact between the two of them, or was it a handful of self-inflicted incidents?
Oh, and Jesse's also in the wall, over right after the cutting.
So 3 cars in 1 lap. And it looks like it might have been Michael Landry in that incident, as this camera sucks at showing it to us. No, this was earlier. I think it was 2 separate events here, Ryan.
Have sympathetic mistakes. It happens. Something just puts you off rhythm. You lose focus for just a split second, especially around the dip or the cars. The back end will want to come around on you just because of the elevation change. If you're not ready to catch it, that's going to send you into the wall every time.
Damage finally being shown now for Dakota Botello, who looks to the inside of Grayson Head. That's not going to be a place you can make that work, boys. Force elbow, incredibly narrow. It's where we've seen it work as a Hail Mary from Matt Campbell to conclude the Bathurst 12-hour, but at this point in the race, I don't know. Some good momentum, though, once again from Dakota Botello, as both of them will use all of the runoff available heading into the chase. Botello with a look to the inside, gets all the way to the bumper, but still will hold on to that position. Grayson Head to 14th. Some good battling between these guys in the mid-pack.
Absolutely, and it looks like it's going to continue all the way to Griffin's Bend if this pace keeps up.
Ooh, around the outside, Brian Slater gets back in line with Chris Wacker. Dundale before Griffin's Bend. And Slater, no stranger to this place. I think maybe one of the few NASRS drivers with double-digit starts across both the rookies and the Tuesday splits. And will take P7. Zach McClare has gotten that McLaren running again, but he is under fire from Raf Cabrera. And some good running again. One of our top Luxi from the evening, Nitin Murthy, finally coming into the pits. Bit of grass for Raf Cabrera. Where is our leader? Nitin Murthy going to filter out.
Some action here at the top of the hill between Grayson. It looks like he made a slight mistake coming out of Skyline, getting a little bit into the gravel. Very lucky not to spin the car there, but he has lost a handful of time to Botello.
Here's a replay of what happened. 2 car lengths separating them going through Frog's Hollow. Both of them inches from the wall. And I think it's going to be right here into McPhillamy. He's wiggling that car even before he gets to the bumper. Oh my goodness. Absolutely feeling the heat from Dakota Botello behind as they continue the chase. As now Botello looks to the inside into the chase, and Head still continues to defend. Some great defense from Grayson Head, even with having a door full of McLaren, holds on to 14th. Good stuff.
You can see that damage from earlier is really affecting it. If you look at the hood of that white and blue Mercedes, you can see it is slightly lifted up from the front bumper. We call that a flappy hood or a flappy bonnet. It's a type of damage that will really cost you some speed in the straights. It's very hard to overcome, and I think that is making him very, very vulnerable to Botello behind.
A result of a high front damage, the bumper kind of pushes up into the hood and lodges it off of the quick release pins. Another big dive from Dakota Botello. That front nose being pretty much an entire assembly. I think the front is still something that could maybe pop loose on that McLaren, but definitely not as easily. So some big straight line speed being lost from a car, as we were talking about before we went on air, Ryan, a car that already is kind of at a disadvantage when it comes to BOP.
Absolutely. The Mercedes is so strong in a straight line that in order to bring it in line with the other cars, it just needs to be tuned down just a bit, a little bit of extra weight added. And as a result, I mean, it still retains a lot of its straight line speed, but not as much as it's used to.
Had a little bit late on the brakes going into Skyline, and once again has a rear bumper full of Dakota Botello every single time. In the run down Conrad, he's gotten closer and closer. Grayson Head in the wall. He collects Dakota Botello as a result. He'll get by and take P14, but not without getting a good chunk of damage from the Mercedes of Grayson Head as a result.
You hate to see it. It's just one tire out of place. It's one tire on the painted line, a little slide, and you're going to hit that concrete barrier and just pinball. Collecting another car never feels good, but especially one you're battling with, that's got to sting.
Ping pong balls out into the wall, and after that contact, Grayson was just a passenger. Damage, from what I've seen on Cabrera's car, seems to be minimal, but definitely something he will be feeling. And now you got to ask yourself if Grayson will need to come back to pit row to maybe get that taken care of. He's held on to 15 as a result, but now Keith Bull will try and take that spot from him as well.
It all depends on the amount of damage you got. Sometimes you get away with it, the car takes a lucky bounce. Sometimes you get broken suspension. It's almost never worth it to fix damage unless you cannot control the car or continue. You just sort of have to drive around it, which is just such an awful position to be in.
Nitin Murthy backing it into the S's broadside in a rough part of the course. He's able to gather it back up and go. And just got a little bit ambitious. Almost had it saved. And if he didn't keep that right or back left tire out of the grass, he would have been on his way. So he will actually hold on to P5. The only negative takeaway is a little bit more bent carbon fiber.
Very lucky not to get turned around there.
Almost better to have it be nose out as a result, so you can just instantly peel out and rejoin instead of kind of having to Austin Powers it and just do a 90-point turn to rejoin, something we've seen a couple of times tonight.
Absolutely, and in that section of track, it's so narrow, there's nowhere for you to actually get the car turned around, and the angling of the track even makes it hard to sort of light up the rear tires and spin that rear out. Do a half donut, if you will.
Incident between cars 2 and 4 listed as racing incident.
And I think that's a fair assessment. There was no malice from Grayson there. It was an honest mistake. He did his best to regain control. It was just unfortunate. It's racing. It happens, but there's not enough to assign blame to either driver, not enough to penalize. "17.5 minutes to go here in round number 3 from Mount Panorama. And Joe Klaus, who started at the front of the field, has not looked back with 18 seconds over Michael Landry. And unfortunately, one of our top guys in Joris Butkus was looking well on his way to a P3, at worst P4 run. Got in a self-involved incident and threw in the towel, so Edriel Lugo Ortiz gets promoted to that bottom step of the podium. Watching Brian Slater in what's one of our sole battles on track right now, as more trouble for Sam Parchment. Looks like he was able to get that going again.
Got it going again, but almost carbon copy of what we saw from Nitin Murthy earlier on, but just at the chase, instead of going down the S's, just dropping the smallest piece of tire in the grass, which essentially works as a slip and slide. Keith Bull has a long train coming his way, and these guys have to be so careful not to gather him. He actually releases the brake and slides down the hill, so that Ferrari's a little bit more flush with the wall. He's got to be so careful with the rejoin, as Joel Klaus is next. And we'll now have a good amount of time to try and unlodge that Ferrari. As just says, screw it anyway.
You may have noticed some damage that we weren't readily able to see. Maybe a broken steering arm, just so where you couldn't get the car turned around. It's just unfortunate.
Keeps it solid through McPhillamy, and then into Skyline. On the throttle. Big amount of load here. Just got on the gas a little bit too soon, I think, Ryan. So holds on to that car. Keeps it a one-car incident. Actually goes out of his way to back it up and make sure nobody gets collected. So some good stuff from our drivers in terms of sportsmanship.
Absolutely. Normally, as stewards, we recommend that once you've had an incident, you keep on the brakes till all cars have come past. But on a track this tight, sometimes getting out of the way, even just letting the car roll back a little bit, is at minimum polite and at best a great idea to prevent more accidents. That was a smart move by Keith there.
Back to our battle for P7. The raging Canadian Brian Slater hunting down the new guy, Rob Rogerio, in that BMW M4. Slater, a longtime coach aboard the 488. Tried the NSX, wasn't a huge fan, and as a result, decided to just upgrade to the 296. Has not looked back ever since. Right on Rob through the final corner. A little bit of a look to the inside across the stripe. And the rookie in sixth, feeling the pressure for sure.
It looks like he's got a really good run on him. It's going to be so hard to defend this. I really don't think that BMW's got the grunt to keep up with the 296 at this point.
Looks to the outside, now inside, as Rob took the middle there, trying to make that BMW as wide as possible. A big slide from Rogerio, gathers it back up, but Tokyo Drift stuff from Rob as he continues to try and make that M4 as thick as possible. Slater almost in the wall here through Quarry Corner.
Bit of an interesting move from Slater there, trying to go to the outside of Griffin's Bend. Traditionally, you want to stick your nose up the inside and hold that, as the camber is all right there next to the inside curb. Going to the outside, lost a little bit of speed, decided to back out of it. Definitely a smart move. Lives to fight another lap.
I think it was reactive to what Rogerio was doing. I thought he believed Rob might have been holding that inside line all the way up into the cutting. And whether Rob intended to do so or not, the deke worked and forced Slater back in line. Goes a little bit deep into Forrest's elbow, and we know that Prancing Horse has a little bit of legs on it compared to the M4. As I say that, though, Rob with a really, really good run here down Conrad.
Right, and right behind them, Cabrera looks like he's going to be able to make a move here. Yep, he sure does. Gets around Wacker.
So clears lap traffic. It's not lap traffic, it's for position further back. See if we can grab that really quickly, actually. Another Tuesday night rookie. Goes actually shallow on exit to Conrad. And with the Lexi being some of the fastest cars we've seen on the speed trap, this one is not too much of a surprise.
Brian Slater making a move on the outside of Rob. Didn't quite make it stick out of Hell Corner, but he's got his nose right up in the slipstream of Rob's BMW.
What are we going to see this time by? This was the prime position for Slater. He looks to the inside now on Rogerio, but Rob a little bit later on the binder. Some confidence from the BMW pilot. Slater finds the momentum on the exit of Griffin's, will go to the outside into the cutting, but backs out of it. Slater's in the wall. Keeps going. Brian Slater, the dirtiest of moves you'll see all night, with just sacrificing his car to get that position done. We'll see if he can make it stick, but some brilliant stuff there from Brian Slater, who sacrifices carbon fiber to get that Ferrari up into P6.
The risk versus reward was disproportional, but he hung on to it, and it looks like it's paying off for him. He is pulling away from Rob.
Just that extra bit of clean air able to do wonders for Slater. As this will throw us to Dean Lusch, another rookie in P10, as the Huracans continue to flex here. And Zach Beclaire and Parker Thomas try and drive their way into the top 10 with 10 minutes on the clock. Owen Churchill trying to claw his way into this battle as well.
This is the point of the race where the strategies the drivers were working on earlier begin to converge. You sort of see the trains reforming, some cars seemingly pulling pace out of nowhere, and that's all down to the time that they decided to pit, and again, how well they can keep these wet tires alive.
5-second penalty being applied as a result of, I believe it is car 24. So another added penalty here. Excuse me, no, to car 331. So Zach Leclerc with a penalty. And I'm not entirely sure why. Let's see if we can get a replay here as he fends off Parker Thomas. This was earlier on something we didn't catch between him and Dean Lusch. Lusch to the inside. And Zach with a big lick out of the wall. Interesting stuff there as it's like Zach actually got the worst of that. I believe that penalty might just be for making that stick.
Still waiting on the official description here as car 23 looks like they lose it at Forest Elbow.
Ooh. That is one of the Aston Martins. It is, I believe, Gabe Dovier. It is. And this incident in the lap traffic is spicing this battle up once more between Ruggiero and Slater. That Aston still unable to rejoin. He now finally does.
There's good awareness from car 23 there, holding the brakes even though he's in the middle of the track. Moving can really throw a driver off, especially if they've already committed to a line to avoid him. Only backing up once it was completely safe to do so and then rejoining safely as a steward, can't be happier than that.
Been surprised with how much this has caught so many drivers off, as in the middle of the track now sits Gabe Dovier with
Klaus is fun.
Go.
Coming out of Forest Elbow, looks like.
Oh my goodness, this could absolutely spike things up. Is there damage to that Lamborghini Huracan? I joined in a little bit too late in the action, getting on the gas there, and got a good chunk of the wall there trying to rejoin. So it might not be over for Michael Landry.
You can definitely see some body panel gaps, a little bit wider than they should be at the front of the car there. Some scuffed paint, torn vinyl, and looks like a very unhappy driver behind the wheel.
So we'll keep you updated on how that gap develops. 8 seconds now between first and second. As further back, Parker Thomas tries to keep putting the pressure on Zach Leclerc. A little bit of contact earlier as well between Slater and Ruggiero. That's going to be no further action. As Thomas with a big slide down the S's will give Owen Churchill an opportunity to strike. Into Forest Elbow. A little bit of a look to the inside from Owen. Gets back in line.
You get to see the horsepower underneath the hood of the prancing horse as he slowly pulls away on the back straight here.
More trouble further back for Grayson Head. Yet another car lost in the downhill section of this track. Middle of the track, a big wiggle on the brakes there from Owen Churchill, who still somehow hauls that M4 to the apex of the chase. But Parker holds onto this position. Grayson Head now teleporting to the pits as well, so that will indicate day done from the lone Mercedes in this field, as we are now down to 23 cars out on track, 22 cars out on track.
Yeah, this track always seems to have a way of claiming a few casualties. Doesn't seem to matter what league, what the skill of the driver is, or what series you're in. No matter what, someone is not coming back out of that pit lane.
The grand equalizer in terms of driving, always rain, but Mount Panorama always with something up its sleeve. That gap between Joel Klaus and Michael Landry down to 7.5 seconds. But for the bottom spot of the podium, Michael Quant putting the pressure on Edriel Lugo Ortiz for third. Final ruling from
I think that
Dave Pacagnini, by the way. 5 seconds for, I believe it might be 2 cars here, as aggressive driving between the 11 and the 331, as it is Dean Luch that actually does get that penalty. That makes sense.
it's looking like that damage that Edgeril took on earlier in the race when he had that spin with Butkus. It looks like it may be affecting him. Quant is catching him every lap.
Here's another look of the incident for Dean Luch, who was a little bit of contact there. Certainly not intentional, but that certainly caused the ping pong effect for Zach. And with that 5-second penalty, it is a freight train behind. So this will essentially demote Luch down to 13th at best. More issues for Parker Thomas, who was already spun around. That might be a result of contact that we have not seen yet. And it is. Started between him and Dakota Botello. Let's see if we can get a proper replay here. Started with Thomas looking on the inside of Owen Churchill. Churchill had to cut the grass, and there was a little bit of a nick between both of them, but minimal damage. So now 23 seconds back. It looks like it'll be a P14 finish for Luch if things hold off the way they are. So field is spread out for the most part, but a lot of big battles here, as Zach Beclair will be handed 10th as a result of the Dean Luch penalty. Owen Churchill with a chance to potentially be an upset and snatch that from Zach. And at the sharp of the end of the field now, half a second separating Michael Quant and the fellow Ferrari of Edriel Lugo Ortiz. Dakota Botello, though, wants round 2 against Owen Churchill. Both of these guys tucked in behind Sam Parchman. He'll go to the inside as he tries to be the non-biased part of this ordeal. Botello with a little bit of a look to the inside down the chase, gets back in line for a little bit more speed. Big lift into the chase. Churchill walks to the inside to defend. And Botello with the pace, just looking for a spot to put that McLaren.
Churchill going almost overly defensive there, sticking near to the left side of the track. He's trying to hold him off for one corner at a time.
Michael Quant on the absolute limit. This is going to be for the podium with 30 seconds on the clock. They'll see the checkered before then. It might be one more lap for Joel Klaus. It'll be close. It's going to be a matter of how badly he wants it. And some great defense from Edriel Lugo Ortiz. Michael Quant sails wide. Lugo Ortiz gets a good chunk. He gets that right rear end of the wall on the outside of Forrest's elbow. So both of these guys have damage. But Quant definitely out of striking distance now. Over to Klaus. It will be one more lap.
I don't know. Quan is pulling some time back. He's within 0.3 of a second. I think Edgeril picked up more damage than we thought. He is very slow through the chase.
Believe it will be the checkered flag for these guys. Big wiggle for Lugo Ortiz. Quan to the outside. Now looks to the inside into turn number 1. This is not over. Quan looks to the inside in turn number 1. P3 for Michael. Here's the switchback though. Lugo Ortiz gets the good traction out of Hell's Corner, side by side, down Mountain Straight. Quan gets back in line. We're not done yet. Now we'll look to the inside from Michael. Door to door into turn number 2. Don't end in heartbreak, boys. Lugo Ortiz goes wide. And Quant, through no easy means, gets himself onto the podium.
That's not quite over yet. There was contact registered. It may be minor, but keep in mind, when in a corner like that, any contact can be penalized, especially if it is considered to be a bump and run. I didn't see anything penalty worthy there, but I don't have the replay at hand. I haven't gone over it yet. We may see another penalty coming.
Netcode could have netcoded there, but it looks like both of them might have had another scrape against the wall. Lugo Ortiz might be damaged, but he's so much more confident on the binders working down Skyline. He'll be right on the bumper into Forest Elbow if he's able to keep this pace up, and could take this podium spot back from Michael Quant. Quant has been so used to fighting for this position. This will be the first lap he'll actually have to defend. Now going down the chase. Checkered flag for Joel Klaus. He will be king of the mountain, but we still have a little bit of riding to do. Matt Quant over the crest here, going down Conrad Straight. Will still fend off from Lugo Ortiz. Down to the right-hander. Lugo Ortiz going especially wide, trying to maximize that pace. It won't be enough. It'll take a miracle going into Murray's. A big slide from Michael Quant. My voice is gone, but my spirit is high. Out of Murray's for the final time. Quant, in a Hollywood finish, has taken P3. He will stand on the podium for the first time in season 24 here at Mount Panorama.
What a finish. It's not often we get to see last lap battles like that, especially not between two drivers of this caliber.
The battle we haven't shown you, Brian Slater, the hard charge did not stop after Rafael Cabrera. He's gotten to the back of Nitin Murthy, but Slater will have to settle for P6, and another top 5 drive for Nitin Murthy. Further back, Dean Lusch to the tail of Wacker, just trying to keep that delta of 5 seconds as far away from Owen Churchill as possible. To the outside, and actually weirdly not a fight from Chris Wacker. I think he knows he'll get that position back. So it will be P12 provisionally now from Wacker. Dakota Botello and Owen Churchill. Another battle to the line. Botello with a very ambitious dive to the outside through Murray's. It wasn't enough. And we can now finally... We can now finally take a breather in some phenomenal drives here, and some things that will need to be investigated after the race. A little bit of contact there between, I believe, Nitin Murthy and Brian Slater, but some incredible stuff. Joel Klaus on the front, and despite the mistakes we saw earlier on, it will be a Joel Klaus win, but Landry will be back on the podium. We'll have you guys hear from your podium here momentarily when we come back. Stay with us. Joined now by our round 3 podium. We're going to start with a name we have not seen up here in a while, but we are very happy to see back. It is Michael Quant in a phenomenal drive back to the front of the field. Talk to us about your race.
Yeah, it was basically all in the second stint. I was like 15 seconds behind Edriel, I think, and I saw I was catching him, and then I think at some point he got some damage, and then I was able to put in like 1 second a lap faster for pretty much the whole entire second stint, and then Joel, thank goodness, crossed the finish line with about a second left and gave me another lap, and then I got him on that last lap.
Were you expecting to even reel in Lugo Ortiz by the end of this race? I know he had a little bit of damage for himself, but did you think that would even be a possibility coming out of the box?
Yeah, pretty much as soon as I came out, I saw he was running slower laps, so I was like, oh, I think I can get him. I put my head down and I pretty much put in as good laps as I could have.
Your brother Matt showing some really strong pace as well this week. Unfortunately, not the result he was looking for here as he ended up back in the garage, but still a great running from the two brothers.
Heck yeah.
Michael, a really, really great drive. And before I get to the other Michael, any shout-outs you'd like to make for the stream?
Oh, shout out to Edriel, man. That was a great race.
Good stuff, Michael Quant. P3, I will kick you out of here, good sir, and we will go to the other Michael, who is no stranger to the podium and to interviewing me, the Raging Canadian Michael Landry. Michael, a very quiet race for you, especially after the pit stop, but your thoughts on a P2 finish here?
Happy with it. Well, at the beginning, I was trying to follow Joel, where he was just too fast. I was pushing and just touching the wall, airing that, and end up to a 10-second damage just by keeping touching the wall. And after that was just the second time was just trying to survive, because at the exit of the pit, Adriel was only a second and something behind me, and then like a lap or two after that, he got an incident, and I was just trying to keep it on the track to survive to the end to get to P2. I know I couldn't catch Joel; he was just way too fast for me on this race.
Was there almost a sigh of relief after Joris had his incident there, and that was a big thing that was kind of off of your worries there, or did you wish you almost had someone to battle with and push you there after the stop?
Sorry, I didn't understand at the beginning.
The battle with Butkus there was incredible going into the stop, but do you almost wish you still had him around there to maybe push you to Joel, or was it good kind of having clean air there for the second half of the race?
We will have continue to battle on the second stint for sure, and I don't think we will be able to catch Joel anyway. We're just fighting. Unfortunately, he got some partial moment top of the hill, I guess.
Another really great drive from you, Michael. Any shout-outs you'd like to make here?
Shout out to you to making this. Really
all right,
appreciate it.
That's enough. Michael Landry, P2 finisher. And let us go on to our race winner, Joel Klaus in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. Joel, you started on the front. There was I don't even want to say there was drama at the start because you guys were clean as heck. I mean, P1 and you didn't look back. Boring race, but a good race. Talk to me about it from your cockpit.
It was always stressful with you when you have Michael and Joris right behind you. You can never really relax. Those guys are so fast, and you can easily lose it all. So I was just happy that they seemed to be battling behind me, and that allowed me to kind of run away, at least in the first stint.
How big of a factor there was lap traffic and being able to manage it, especially post stop towards the tail end there? Was that as much of a factor, or did you feel like you were able to coexist pretty well and hold your gap?
I think we coexisted pretty well. Shout out to the lap traffic for, everybody was pretty aware of what was going on, so no big issues there. Not sure if you caught it on stream, though, but I had a little bit of a moment out of Forest Elbow.
I was about to ask, could you please walk me through what happened out of Forest? Because we just saw you in the grass at Forest?
I was having a great race, loving my life, really proud of myself until that moment. I don't know if you saw, I was driving without the traction control on, and I just got a little too cocky, didn't respect the tire degradation, I think, out of the corner there. Just spun under power and almost blew the race.
You still brought it home, although, I mean, that gap between you and Landry was down to like 6 seconds towards the tail end.
I was worried, man.
Was getting spicy.
I couldn't believe it.
Getting spicy. Managed to bring it home.
I was sweating.
Though. Managed to bring it home. Another win for you, and brings you right back in the championship fight with Landry. Your thoughts of how you've performed thus far in the season?
I mean, it's the best season I've done in a long time. So amazing start. Let's see if I can keep those guys behind, because man, they show up sometimes and they're just flying. So hopefully, I have a few points gap to see you through.
Great stuff, Joel. Any shout outs you'd like to make here before we kick you out?
Shout out to Davin, and I think it was Jesse Beauclair. I thank you for not hitting me when I just put it in the wall there. Good awareness by you guys.
Great stuff, as always, Joel. We'll hope to see you next weekend.
Thank you.
Might try to get one or two more guys for you if you're up for it, chat. Davin Sturdivant is on the list if he's around. Why not? Kidnapping Davin Sturdivant. You love to see it, chat. Give me 1 second here. Hi, Davin. It's Jackson Lambros. I've abducted you because your children from NASRS have done a brilliant job. Completely clean start. A couple of incidents, obviously on the tail end, but no big kahuna from your end, and obviously not the race I'm sure you wanted to have, but still a very good racing product being put up from your field here tonight.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy for everyone else. Right? Like it is it's a challenging track and everyone pretty much kept their nose clean. I'll say this. Those who pay attention during what we talk about in our rookie class have done well in conditions like this. So that's a very nice thing to see. Yeah. I mean, it's designed to treat them to be better drivers, and they're doing a great job.
What did I miss that made you suddenly hate the Honda and go back to the McLaren?
Oh, nothing. I had a couple of real life things that might be popping up that I just wanted to have a car that was a little bit more agreeable, where I didn't have to drive my ears off all the time to make it work. I missed it today, that's for sure, because in the wet it would have been an absolute weapon. But I just wanted to give myself a little bit of a break. I love the Honda, don't get me wrong. You just have to knife edge it the whole time to get lap time out of it, and I didn't feel like it for a small break.
I might know what this is, and I am insanely happy for you if this is what I think it is, and we'll talk about this off the air. But a great job behind the wheel of the whole series, as always. Any shout-outs from you here before we go and land this plane?
Yeah, I mean, welcome to see you again. Because I missed you the first 2 rounds, so shout out to you for being awesome and doing such a great job.
All right, that's enough.
And that's it. That's all I got. Yeah,
okay.
That's the only love I have for you.
Okay, cool. Get out of here. All right, that'll do it for week 3. We go on to Brands Hatch for, I believe, all dry conditions, and we'll be with you every step of the way. Rookies run here. Same time, same conditions, same place. More information on our Discord. But it is time to pack things up for this weekend. Thank you so much for walking dry launch, and you guys turned up to watch. So very much appreciate it. For everybody here at North American Sim Racing Series, I'm Jackson Lambros saying until next time, and so long from Bathurst.